All right, and we are jumping right in to Salina versus Edison.
Philadelphia Eagles versus Salina. Oh, wait, wrong team. Sorry. We have this game going right now. It has been relatively neck to neck. Again, we are seeing extremely close games into this main bracket. We are seeing the Percy Arissa Bastion comp versus this Lucio Mora. Take me back to 2020 because we're playing Lucio Mora comp. Very interesting to see from Edison.
Our objective is under attack. Disperse the enemy immediately. Informing you.
Grabbing the point, hiding in a corner.
Playing that hold, they're gonna wait for Salina to push up here. Now we see this speed coming out from Edison. They're trying to walk onto the Bastion. They don't want to allow the Bastion to set up too quickly, but they just failed on their initial engage. And Bastion gets a pick on the cast, and that's probably going to give Salina the point for now, unless they can get a big pick onto this Bastion.
I mean, they tried to rush in.
But the Reaper gets the kill. Nobody helps the Bastion. And Edison keeps points. And Arissa's just sitting there, trying to die as quickly as possible. Wow.
Secure. Break up the game. Next, flashpoint redux.
Okay.
This section, again, immediately going to be taken from Edison. It's important to realize, too, within these best of fives, we have that map selection. And most of the time, pretty much every time, actually, within that last BO5 with Sequoia, they won their map pick every single time. It is all this map pick has been really pushing the win for a lot of teams. Salina's obviously going to look to break that here. When you're playing against Lucio Mora, what are you planning to play against? What's your strategy?
I mean, definitely you need to make sure that you're watching and trying to punish the Moira after the fades. You need to make sure that you're keeping track of it. And while Moira has a fade every 2 seconds, if you're keeping track of it, it's really manageable in order to make sure that they're not able to get off into the back line and pick off your squishies.
And a big combo is going to come out here with the Arissa, but it's not going to be enough. Meanwhile, Edison still somehow pulling out these fights. Their ultimates, the cast is going to be killed by the Arissa, but it's not going to be enough. They're going to have to regroup once again. We're seeing ults fly out from both these teams, but ultimately, Edison is getting way more value. The big thing about Lucio Mora is you have no utility. You don't have cleanse, you don't have nade, you don't have sleep, you don't have emor. It's all about this speed and momentum, and as soon as you can take down the speed, then you should be able to beat out this team, and it just doesn't look like Salina is able to do that right now.
Well, and I feel like Salina is making a good choice with Arissa here, able to hold them back, but not for long as they're just pushing directly through.
It's just W key after W key, and it's an absolute slaughter for Salina.
I mean, do you think that maybe Salina can switch one of their DPSs over to something like Mei for a wall in order to stop speeds? Or...
I mean, it could provide a disconnect in their momentum. If you walled them while half their team is pushing in, that could be something. But also, I feel like you do what they're doing right now. You gotta swap to momentum. If the other team wants to walk on you, you walk on their team better. That Lucio Mora only has so much utility to get out of fights. Meanwhile, Kiri could TP halfway across the map in an instant.
Well, especially depending on how Edison chooses to dive. If they are the ones to dive first, Salina can hold for just a half a second. Edison's not going to get away.
Here, we're going to see Junk Queen has the ult online, and now they just swap the point over to Edison, immediately backing off. We see this Doomfist kind of sitting there, playing reactively. No one's taking an engagement. Tries to get the kill onto Salina. It's not going to be enough. But finally, Shockwave's going to get some value out of the Doomfist. But we still see this Queen is online. Doomfist just going to ignore the Queen as much as possible. But a big punch back into the back line. And finally, we're going to see Salina take some percentage and win a fight.
We're going to ignore that missed punch there.
Oh, the original punch on the Queen was great. Forced her into the wall. I think this is what they needed. Salina needed a momentum comp that will keep them in these fights. It's a little curious why they waited so long to take an engagement. They were playing very reactively, but it ended up working for them because once again, Lucio and Moira don't have a lot of utility to get out of fights.
Ult being engaged immediately.
The big pick coming out from Edison on the Cassidy. And now Doom has no choice. He has to back away. He got to 52%. But they're in a dire straits here. They need to regroup and take a look at the ultimate. Edison has pretty much none. We are going to see Lucio ult and Reaper ult online by the time this next fight engages. Meanwhile, Salina, almost 5 ultimates.
I mean, if there is any time to push forward, it is when you have 5 ultimates.
Now we're going to see the Kyrie ult engaged here. It's going to be the first ult to keep them into this fight. A huge pick. They don't really need anything else. They need to make sure they hold because now they need to stagger their ultimate. They need to make sure that they don't use everything unless they hit that 80%, which honestly they should. Then they just want to win the fight.
Both DPS ults are about to be online. I feel like if you're going to choose one, you definitely want to make sure you only use one. You don't want to click both at the same time. Doom ult being thrown out. A huge slam. Reaper ult coming out, not getting any value. And Salina got to that 80%, used every ult in the game to hold, and is going to get that point.
Attack the objective.
Secured. Next flashpoint.
We are going to see at least 2 ults on Edison's side as we're going into this this third section here.
The enemy desires a battle.
Meanwhile, Salina needs to be careful about how they're holding this point. They may even need to give up this first fight to build up that ult charge and be able to retake. Yeah, Edison rushing in, trying to get those initial picks. A good trade. But they're just gonna start losing people one after another. Moira trying to get the Zen and is unable to. And Salina takes the point with no ult. We've almost got Doom ult again. We're looking at probably after this next fight going to have 3. Edison loves rushing on a point, getting that initial kill, immediately traded by the Genji. I mean, Genji really wants to get that Reaper. Looking to get any sort of value to get those kills, but Salina is gonna say no and push them back. And Salina once again is going to have nearly 5 ults for this last fight. Edison needs to... They can give up this point, but it's going to be... No, Edison wants to push on to point. Getting that, trying to get that initial kill. Coming out from everywhere. 3 dead without using any ults. But finally, the Doom comes back on, gets a stupid kill onto that Reaper. Edison needs to rush to try. They're touching the point. And Edison is going to give up the point 2-2. Once again, these games are really close. But Salina is going to have 4 ults coming into this next point. Again, they need to make sure that they're using them in a manner in order to stagger them. We don't want to see all 4 ults being used at the same time, because then they're just not going to have the value in these upcoming fights.
Flashpoint unlocks in 10 seconds.
Getting ready for the last engagement. This is the last point. Immediately gets pushed off the map. Doom rushing in, trying to get this Lucio. Unable to kill him, but at least pushes him off of the point as Salina takes the initial. Edison slowly building up their ult charges. They need to push forward. They need to take hold of the site. But Salina has been pushing right back against them and getting enough value to keep them at bay for this entire time. We're going to see that push. 2 kills immediately coming out from Edison.
It is neck to neck.
Yes, Salina using that 1 ult in order to stay alive. Still has 3 left for the retake. But Edison coming up on 2 more. I mean, this Tracer's going to be looking to pulse on probably the Zen. Beat being used immediately as they push in. Edison gets 2 kills. 3. Salina tried to use the Kyrie ult in order to help them push forward, but Edison just immediately got those kills, took the value, and was able to take the point back. And they're coming up on 80%. Salina needs to use their ults, get onto point, at least get that touch, get a couple of kills. Genji ults. 1 support down. Somebody touching point. They need to go back. Doom rushing back onto point, getting the kill. Ooh, just barely missed the punch on the Reaper. And it is 99. Edison unable to touch, and Salina will win. Salina 2-1.
Play of the game.
Cause and effect.
Ready for battle.
This is my favorite.
All right, and now we're going straight into this next game. Salina versus Edison. We're on that 4th map, and this is really where it decides, is Edison gonna win their map pick? And if they can win it, they'll move on to Escort, and we'll play that 5th map. Interesting enough, we're seeing that fast comp once again from Edison, but ultimately, it started to stagger in the later points of Flashpoint. What is your thinking of why that happened?
I mean, when we were watching one of the big things is that Edison immediately was countered by Salina switching over to a more dive-focused comp. But now that we're on a push map, it's going to be something completely different. Edison wants to stay on that dive, but Salina is going to try to counter it with a more hold style approach, especially with that Sigma. And Bastion, though, is going to immediately get picked off.
That's going to give Edison some very solid momentum. Brick blocks the rock. They're going to full send it onto this Mercy, try to kill her as fast as possible. And now, this is the problem that you get with Sigma Bastion. As soon as you lose your Bastion, or your Sigma is displaced by the Venture, you ultimately just start crumbling. But if Salina is able to pick one of these off-angle DPS while the engagement happens, then Salina can push the momentum and keep strong in this poke comp. It's very interesting we're seeing such polar opposite kinds of gameplay here.
Well, and I'm wondering what the pick is for the Mercy versus trying to find something that's going to help more with the dive comp as far as like a maybe even a BAP.
I think the big thing why you see Mercy comps is usually comfortability. They're not comfortable on any other characters, so they run Mercy because Mercy at least gives them somewhat value, even in the worst of times. But I think it is kind of difficult for most teams to run, especially against Tracer. Venture, that's really hard for teams. But once again, we see the momentum change from Salina. Salina gets that pick, and it just destroys Edison's team. They're not able to do anything against this, and now they have to regroup and re-engage. Luckily, Edison has that advantage, and they're going to look to take a fight probably before the halfway point.
Yeah, we're getting that push in, but it's going to be punished pretty quickly.
Could potentially change this fight if they can get the Venture, but so much heals just land out, and it's not going to be enough. We see ultimates engaged on all sides, and now Salina is in a very difficult situation if they can't live. And they're going to lose their Kiri. They're going to have to reset. And I think
a huge stun coming out in order to try to stagger.
Oh, it's just very difficult to run this Sigma comp into this fast brawl. It's hard to get the engagements that you're looking for when half your team is all the way in the back, getting destroyed by a Queen that just ran past you at mock speed.
And here we are once again. We're going to see Salina switch over to that Doom. Switching to a more dive comp.
They're going to engage the Juno ult, and they're going to take a weird early fight without pushing payload. And they're going to take a fight on the Kiri, and now they're just going to be able to go back, move the payload a little bit, and a Ego Reaper ult out of nowhere that doesn't...
Was that maybe just an ult in order to switch? Because they're...
Most likely, surely.
Yes, okay. We are going to be seeing the switch.
The change on the Venture.
What was that blade?
See the Tracer in the backline. 1 HP is going to get caught out by the Kiri. A little too much ego there. Now we're going to see the Kiri ult engage. Curiously enough, Edison doesn't really need to use anything, but they are going to use the Queen ult to stay into this fight. Doom 1 HP with the anti. Edison is still holding strong. They have the knife on the Doom. They're going to try to fly him back into the team. But ultimately, their backline is too weak, and they're not going to be able to defend against the Doom Genji. Finally, Salina has the robot, unless they don't want to move it. There we go. 5 minutes on the clock. Still plenty of time to make plays here.
Yeah, but Salina has a lot to push.
Yeah, I think Salina still has to get to the halfway point, which takes a really long time to push the robot through the midpoint. As well as Edison has this momentum for him, where every time they do get halfway point, they're going to immediately have good spawn and a big pulse bomb onto the Mercy, but the backline is getting crushed by this Doom Venture comp.
Yeah, I mean, we see it immediately. Salina swaps to a more aggressive comp, starts diving onto the backline, and Edison doesn't know how to handle it.
It's very interesting that now, as soon as Shockwave starts switching to a more aggressive character, as you said, is now he's getting that value, putting the pressure down on the team, always getting a big value, and we do seem to have a tech pause. We'll be right back just in a second.
All right, and heading right back into the game. We did just have a little bit of a tech issue, but we were able to get that resolved fairly quickly. So Salina here was able to switch up their comms to get that initial push, and are retaking the space. They need to make sure that they're able to push all the way forward. Going through, not seeing. Oh no, Edison able to get that pick onto the other venture. Trying to push forward, but the Doom putting the pressure onto the back line. We're still seeing the Mercy on Salina's side. Even with this heavy aggressive comp, they're not going to swap off the Mercy.
Who's on fire? I am.
Pulse Bomb versus 3 ults on Salina's side. Ooh, and a huge pick on the Mercy immediately is going to be pretty bad for Salina as they're able to just push forward. Are we going to see? That's the perfect lineup for ult. No, Edison wants to save it. And out it goes, hitting everybody. Junker Queen just trying to focus down the Doom.
Excavation initiation.
Ults coming out from Salina's side. Fury unable to get the ult out before dying. This is...
We're going to see a red though, and Salina is going to turn it back after some ultimates are engaged, and it's going to finally keep Salina off the back ropes just for a little bit longer, but it's still looking very precarious. They're locking the Malga down to have that consistent front line, but again, I mean, we take a look at the healers on both these teams. We're seeing Mercy Curie versus Juno Brig. And I gotta say, Juno Brig is gonna have a very strong output for defense and heals. And
yeah, Brig ult immediately coming out, able to stun people, get those picks off.
Bubsy's gonna be in a very dangerous situation. He's gonna try to back away here. But it's not really going to be enough. Bubsy can get out of here and maybe live. And a huge kill on the Ana from the Tracer. Though it is going to get traded by that Genji, this is it. This is Edison's last full push here for now to get this point. They want to make this the last fight. Salina's trying everything in their power just to stagger, to hold down the point for as long as possible, to give them the opportunity of a pick. But it just doesn't look like it's going to happen. And will the tradition of the map pick be continuing here?
It's the final little bit. All they need to do is push Salina off the point for a second, and they're not able
neck
to.
To neck. People flying all over the place. Are they going to get it? Roadhog's last one, and no.
And that
Edison
last push
is going to win the 4th. And we will move on to the final of the BO5. For Edison Salina, 2-2.
Play of the game.
All right, and we are here with Salina versus Edison. 2-2, the final map. This is Salina's pick. Salina chose Circuit Royale and wanted to go on the attack. I mean,
but one human lifespan is not enough to see it all.
Oh, we're going to see a mirror comp coming out from Salina. Well, I guess almost a mirror comp, yeah. They're just running the Genji instead of the Tracer, but we're going to see a huge dive. I mean, Salina just wants to get this over with. They want to get into the backline. An immediate pick off on the Tracer. Caught lacking. Salina pushing forward, getting those kills. It looks like they took the lesson to heart that Edison gave them and decided that they wanted to dive on their own. Now the question is, if Salina is able to just consistently keep pushing up on Edison by running the same comp, is Edison going to need to change? Or can they dive better? Starting up on that second fight, Edison needs to get some picks, but Salina is saying no. Edison is just trying to get anything here. Getting a couple picks out. Is it going to be enough? It looks like it. They're able to hold for this one. Salina is coming up on one ult. Probably going to have another 3 or 4 by the end of this next fight here. And definitely should be able to make that push to get this cap. Looking for an initial pick.
Time for the reckoning.
There is the ult. Edison able to get 2 picks on Salina. We've got a whole bunch of ults here. A huge knife.
For a thunderstorm.
And immediately made up for by missing the ult there. But looks like they didn't need it, as Genji pops ult, immediately gets 3, and they're able to cap this first point. I mean, here it's just a question of who can get those picks faster. They're running essentially the same comp with the one singular difference. So they need to make sure when they're rushing in that an immediate pick by Edison. I mean, Salina is kind of falling apart here. We initially saw that Edison was the one that was comfortable on this dive comp. Salina is changing in order to meet them with the comp. And initially was able to get those first couple pushes, and Edison is slowly learning how to face against that mirror. Yeah, backing up immediately. The Venture is jumping into that backline, trying to get a pick. Is going to be punished by the Genji, but a good trade's coming out. And once again, Edison is going to hold Salina here in the middle of this point. I mean, so the Genji immediately dove into the back line, but Edison has the cast sitting back there ready for it. I think Edison realized that Salina was going to try to run that same sort of comp and needed to make some change. Huge ult coming out, getting everybody. And Edison is walking over Salina here, keeping them out of spawn. A minute 35 left on the clock. A push out of spawn. It gets the immediate kill, a huge stagger. I mean, I think the difference here in this comp, Brig ult's being used. Which one's going to be able to stun first? Oh, and it looks like Edison gets one off Salina. It was a Brig off, and it looks like Edison is going to win. With 45 seconds on the clock, Salina has been trying to do this push. They've been trying to get onto that backline with that Genji, which Genji is coming up on ult. Hopefully is able to get a couple picks. Edison waiting in the corner. It's just immediately going to dive on Salina, who wasn't there to see it coming. And the Juno ult is going to get a little bit of value, but is almost going to go to waste since they immediately lost two. Edison backing up, not wanting to lose anybody before this last fight. 10 seconds left on the clock. Salina wants to touch onto the point, and Edison needs to make sure that they don't lose anybody here. They've got plenty of space in order to work with. Genji ult ready to jump in onto the back line. Are we going to see a couple of kills before Salina falls apart? Yeah, rushing, trying. Able to get the kill onto the Cass. A bunch of ults are going to come out from Edison. And Salina is not able to get enough value here. Just doing their best to try to stay alive, try to keep touching the point. They've got a long way to push here in overtime. Cass getting the kill on the Genji. This is huge. Yeah, pushing forward, just trying to put the pressure, get them off of point long enough. And that is going to be Edison holding Salina down, only able to get one. I mean, this is looking really good for Edison on attack. They don't need to push very far.
Initiating match.
It's going to be very interesting to see as we switch over from Edison being on defense to attack, if they're going to just continue to run this dive comp. And if Salina is going to try to mirror that comp or is going to switch to something in order to hold. Because it seems like you would normally try to run a Sigma comp here on defense for Circuit Royale, but it just wasn't working for Salina because Edison was able to pop onto their backline. And interesting Lifeweaver pick off of Edison. And we are going to see some a completely different comp from Salina. They've got the ROM to try to hold. I mean, great util on the support line. And then Soldier and Torbjorn able to just hold some angles, especially with the being able to set up the turret in an awkward position. And you can set the turret up lane and it's going to be very hard to hit.
3, 2,
I'm wondering what Edison's thinking here, going with Lifeweaver.
escort the vehicle.
And I guess we will just have to see. And there we see the reason Edison chose Lifeweaver, going over the top in order to dive on Salina. Immediately getting those 3 picks. Just styling on Salina here. Insane. I mean, that's definitely one way to use Lifeweaver. Oh, and it looks like we are going to have a another tech pause here. It looks like one of the Salina players has left the game. So talking about what we have seen so far between Edison and Salina, it's been very close. All of these games so far have been very close. Here, if we want to go ahead and go take a look at the bracket real quick. With this bracket, we can see we have yet to have the Owasso Shoto game, which I think is currently going on right now. We did see that Bixby was able to was defeated by Broken Arrow 3-0, which I think was the a bit of a roll. But then every other game we've seen so far, Sequoia versus Booker T was insanely close. We were able to see a lot of those games. Booker T versus Bixby was very close, which the lower bracket is going to be best of threes. Upper bracket will be best of fives. And in this game, Edison Salina, we're just, even though in this initial push on this last map, we watched Edison just completely roll over Salina, it's been relatively close these past games. I think it's just difficult for Salina to deal with this comp coming from Edison. All right, and we are jumping right back into the game. Just a little bit of a tech issue, but we just saw Edison completely walk over Salina with this Lifeweaver pick, able to go over the top of the map. And Edison is still just trying to push forward. I mean, Salina just doesn't know what to do against this comp. Looks like they're able to hold here just for a little bit. Lifeweaver getting picked off. I think we might see a switch after that. They got the initial play. I don't know that there's anything left to do. They might try to wait for ult. Nope, we are going to immediately get that switch over back to Juno. All right, Rom ult. That is going to be huge for Salina, holding onto that point since Rom refuses to die when his ult is active. Yeah, and he's going to immediately pop it, walking in onto the back line, getting that pick onto Juno. 3 picks total. Salina able to hold there. 1 minute and 35 left on the clock. Some riveting gameplay from Lucio. Alright, we've got some ults building from Salina. If they can hold this longer, then they might be able to hold it out at least into overtime. Yeah, beat coming out, keeping them alive. And it's pick after pick from Edison. I mean, just the amount of value that this queen has been able to get is insane. Oh, Salina rushing on a point with Soldier ult, just trying to push people back, trying to get anything. They need to hold here. If Edison is able to touch and get this point, they're going to get plenty of time to push. And they were able to touch 2 minutes and 30 seconds. They don't need to push very far. Edison is just keeping Salina on the back burner. They're consistently, somebody is dead. One of their ults goes off and doesn't get any value out of it, while Edison is sitting here pretty with 2 ults. Activating the Juno ult for that push, but I don't see it anywhere near the point. Where did it go? They decided that they were going to use it to push even farther up. And Edison is going to take the final point. of the best of 5. An absolutely insane match from Edison and Salina. I think overall they played really well. Salina definitely switched up their comps in order to play with Edison as they were just trying to play this really hard dive onto the back line. And then when Salina tried to switch to something else and tried to counter it, it didn't work. They didn't know how to deal with it, and ultimately it ended up being their loss. So we will be right back in just a bit.